First up, let's just quickly go through the buffs like the food and the potions you're going to be using. So, if you are crafting your own gear, what I would reckon is that you get a turnip salad. This means that you're going to increase the crafting speed and also quality of your gear that you're making. So, for example, on this Novice Scholar's Cowl, the item power is 300 because the quality is normal. Whereas on these Journeyman's Mercenary Shoes, normal would be 500 item power, but I've got outstanding and therefore it's 540. Making something like a turnip salad, if you have access to this, or just buying turnip salads on the marketplace, this is going to increase the quality of gear you're crafting. If you're not crafting your own gear and you're buying it on the marketplace, then don't worry. For the food, we're going to be using something like a goat stew is great, that increases combat damage for a long period of time, meaning obviously more damage. If you are a beginner and you're not sure about foods and potions, then don't worry. You can just do the rest of this guide without having to worry about that just yet. On the potions we're going to be using, however, I would recommend minor healing potions to start with, to get some health back, and maybe energy potions should you need them. At tier 4, however, we're going to be using minor poison potions so we can do damage over time to our enemies. Now then, let's start off by talking about the gear you're going to be using at tiers 2 and 3. Often the weapons we're using and the gear we're using is not going to be as specific until we get up to tier 4, so we may be changing this. So for the boot slot, I would recommend going with the Novice Soldier's Boots at tier 2. This is going to give you a rejuvenating spirit buff, increasing your movement speed and healing over 5 seconds, so a bit healing and a bit of speed there. Simply upgrade them at tier 3 to the Journeyman's version for the same buff but better, and then you can also get max load if you need it for carrying more items, or toughness to increase some of your defense. For the head slot, I'd recommend the Novice Scholar's Cowl. That's because it gives Force Field, which is a knockback, so you can interrupt your enemy spellcasting and also knock them back, as well as getting a passive increasing damage and healing. Same again at tier 3, upgrade it for a better version, and go with Aggression again. And don't forget, like I said, you may be swapping these out completely at tier 4, but just at tier 2 and 3, these are going to be the quickest and easiest items to get you going on your journey before we build out the whole build at tier 4. On the chest armor, it's Beginner's Mercenary Jacket, then a Novice's Mercenary Jacket, and then a Journeyman's Mercenary Jacket from tiers 2 to 3. This gives you the Inferno Shield ability, where you can basically put a shield on yourself, reducing damage taken, but also reflecting damage back at your attacker. We can also increase damage and healing and defense from the passive we get on this item. Before we move on to weapons and what we're going to be doing at tier 4 to build out the actual build itself, I just want to mention that the Novice's bag is what you'll be starting off with your bag, and then if you can get tier 3 and 4 of these, just get the most expensive bag you can get. That's going to increase your carry capacity. Same for the cloak. Just get the most expensive one you can get, or the best tier, and that is going to increase energy regeneration. At tier 4, on the helm, it's the Adept Scholar Cowl, so not much difference. The really good thing about this is you get an energy shield, where you can increase your armor and magic resistance. Whenever you take damage, you're also going to restore energy, meaning you can use more of your abilities more often. On the passives, I would just go with Aggression for this one. We're going to use pretty much the same item on the chest. It's going to be the Adept's Cleric's Robe, so changing over from the Mercenary to the Cleric's Adept one. And this is going to give us Everlasting Spirit, where we can invoke a magical ward. Basically, the next time you take damage, you become immune to damage and increase all damage and healing done by 20%. We're sticking with pretty much like kind of the same boots, however, for again, more survivability. It's specifically the Adept's Soldier's Boots. These give you, again, Rejuvenating Spirit, so it's basically just an upgraded one of the one you're already using. Pretty much, so not much else to say on there really. But now onto the weapons we'll be using. At tier 2, we're going to start off with a Novice's Fire Staff. Obviously, we are looking to go up to Arcane, but we can't get Arcane yet, so get over it. What we're going to be using here is Firebolt, a basic Firebolt spell that deals damage, and also we can use Burning Field, which is going to make a burning orb at the target location, which is much better for multiple enemies. We also get Flame Blast, focus fiery energy on the target, enemy or ally, igniting all enemies around them, and also Pyroblast, which we channel and do damage with. I'm not going to go into a massive detail on these spells because we're going to be upgrading them quite soon to the Journeyman's Arcane Staff, which is where we get into the actual arcane part of the arcane build. Number 1. Chain Missile. This is what we'd be using on our Q slot. It's a projectile that's going to hit enemies and it jumps around up to additional targets. It's going to do a lot of damage to the first target, however, and therefore the targets after that will take less damage. But all of them hit will receive something called an arcane charge, which you can then trigger by your other abilities or your auto attacks, which will then do additional damage to that enemy. We then have Enigma Blade, which is an area attack that deals damage in a cone in front of us. And if we do hit at least one enemy, we unlock an optional second part of the attack that allows us to teleport a short distance. Lastly, we have Arcane Orb, where we throw an Arcane Orb that goes boom on the first target that it hits, dealing AoE, area of effect damage, in a large area and purging all of the enemies of their buffs and silencing and interrupting them as well. Basically, this is the Journeyman's Arcane Staff, and once you do get up to our tier 4, we just upgrade it to the Adept's Arcane Staff. Yes, that one has more abilities on it, but we're going to be using the exact abilities that I just explained. Once you've got all of those tier 4 items, that is it. The build is complete. Use the abilities that I have just mentioned to you in the way that I've mentioned, and then you're going to do absolutely fine. If you're not sure about any of the concepts spoken about in this video because you're a complete beginner, check out my Ultimate Beginner's Guide in the playlist you now see on screen. Otherwise, maybe you'd like to check out my other build guides showing a variety of different weapons and how to use them with different gear for beginners, again in the playlist you see on screen there too.